Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we have a Gemini Jets Airport update of Honolulu International Airport. As you can see, it is pretty jam-packed. We have a bunch of aircrafts in this update. I hope you do enjoy. Also, a large percentage of you guys that do watch my videos are not actually subscribed, so if you do end up liking this video, please subscribe. Just getting ready to take off the runway. Here we have the United 757-200. This is in the old livery and will be taking off for a departure flight out to Denver, Colorado. Second in line we have the Delta 767-300ER. This aircraft is not equipped with the winglets, but it is going to take off after the United aircraft for a flight out to Tokyo Narita. Next up we have the Alaska 737-900ER. This is in the honoring those who served livery, honoring the veterans that served for the United States of America. This will be doing a departure flight out to Seattle and it arrived in from Portland. Following that we have the Hawaiian Airbus A330-200. As you can see, this is in the new livery with the lei across the aircraft. This aircraft is fourth in line for a departure out to Seattle and it arrived in from Los Angeles. Next up we have the humongous Atlas Air 747-8. This is an amazing model by Gemini Jets, as you can see, very detailed. This will be doing a departure flight out to Riverside on behalf of Amazon Prime Air. Next up, just crossing past the water, we have the Southwest 737 MAX 8. This is in the new livery, of course, and arrived in from Lihue. I did notice on Flight Radar 24 that Southwest is now sending their MAX 8 from mainland out to Honolulu to operate the flights between the islands. Next up, we'll be moving over to our hard stands at the airport. Next up, we have this UPS Boeing 747-800 loading on the pilots as well as the crew, as well as a bunch of cargo for a departure flight out to Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong, it'll be going out to Guam. Next up, we have the Southwest 737-800ER. Loading on the pilots as well as the flight attendants, and the passengers will be loaded on later for a departure flight out to Oakland, and it arrived in from San Diego. Next up we have the Southwest 737 MAX 8 aircraft. This is loading on pilots and passengers for a departure flight out to Kahului. As I did mention earlier, Southwest is now flying the MAX 8 between the islands, as well as to the mainland. Next up we have a Hawaiian Airbus A330-200. This is in the old livery, as you can see, and just pulled into the gate from a flight in from Austin. That is a new route for Hawaiian that they recently just announced. Next up we have the gorgeous ANA Airbus A380. This is in the Flying Honu livery, as you can see, with all of the turtles, and it is loading on passengers and crew for a departure flight out to Tokyo Narita. Next up we have the Japan Airlines 787-9 Dreamliner, loading on passengers as well as getting fueled up and catering done to the aircraft before it heads out to Osaka. Next up we have the Hawaiian Airbus A330-200. This is in the new livery and is loading on passengers as well as baggage for a flight out to Tokyo Narita. It is pretty uncommon for Hawaiian to do an international flight at Honolulu during these times, but they have started doing them again. Following that we have the Hawaiian Airbus A321neo. As you can see, it is loading on the passengers for a departure flight out to San Jose, and it arrived in from San Diego. We will be moving right along over to Concourse 2. Next up we have a Hawaiian Airbus A321neo. As you can see, it's getting fueled up as well as the passengers loading on for a departure flight out to Oakland, and it arrived in from Las Vegas. Next up, we have the American Airbus A321. This is in the Stand Up to Cancer livery and is loading on passengers, as well as catering done to the aircraft before it heads out to Los Angeles. Following that, we have the Delta 757-200 pushing back for a departure flight out to Atlanta. Next up, we have the United 737-700. This is in the old livery, as you can see, or the Continental livery. It is now loading on the crew as well as the baggage onto the back of the aircraft before it does a flight out to Santa Ana John Wayne Airport, which is a brand new route for United out of Honolulu. Next up, we have the United 757-200ER. This is in the Her Art Here livery, which is the particular California one. This is loading on passengers and will be pushing back for a flight out to San Francisco in about an hour's time. Following that, we have the Japan Airlines 767-300. This is loading on passengers as well as fuel for the departure flight out to Osaka. Following that, we have the Sun Country 737-800. This is in the Tide Pod livery or the new livery, whatever you want to call it. And it'll be doing a departure flight out to its seasonal destination, which is Los Angeles. Next up, we have the Alaska 737-800ER. This is in the new livery and is loading on passengers and getting catering done to the aircraft before it heads out to Seattle. All the way in the back, we have the Alaska 737-900ER. This is in the More to Love livery and is loading on passengers before it heads out to Portland in about an hour's time. Just taxiing over to Terminal 2 and waiting for an open gate, we have the WestJet 737-800ER. This is in the new livery and it just arrived in from Calgary about 20 minutes ago. Next up, we will be heading over to Concourse 3 or Terminal 3. Next up, we have the Philippine Airlines Airbus A330-300 loading on passengers as well as catering done to the aircraft before heading out to Manila. Next up, we have the Qantas 787-9 Dreamliner in the 100-year-strong livery, getting fueled up and loading on passengers as well as catering done to the aircraft before heading out to Sydney, Australia. At the very tip of the terminal, we have the United 777-300ER. This is in the new livery and is loading on passengers as well as the baggage for a departure flight out to Chicago O'Hare. Next up, we have the United 787-9 Dreamliner. This is in the new livery and loading on passengers as well as crew before it does a departure flight out to Tokyo Narita. Following that, we have this United 777-200ER. This just pulled into the gate from a flight in from Guam and is currently offloading the passengers and getting fueled up for its next flight out to Denver. That does conclude today's video of the Gemini Jets Airport update of Honolulu International Airport. I hope you did enjoy. And if you did, please consider smashing that like button as it really helps support me, and subscribing to the channel if you are new and you loved this airport update. There are many of these planned for the future, as well as my grand revealing of the Denver International Airport. As always, I am so thankful for all of your guys' support, and I appreciate all of it. Anyway, until next time, see you in the next video. Goodbye.